To protect my privacy, I have kept my name anonymous. I'm not sure to begin my story, but I'll do the best I can. I guess I'll start by informing you about the Blue's Clues show. For those of you who have never watched it, Blue's Clues is a show for young children that was created in 1996 and lasted for 10 years with a total of 6 seasons and 142 episodes. The show involves Steve or Joe looking for clues and solving mysteries and help from the audience. Blue was an animated dog that labeled the clues for paw prints. Blue's Clues was a hit with many little kids, including me. The idea was original. The artwork was amazing. However, Steve Burns was the backbone of the show. Steve Burns was the actor who played Steve. He was more serious than Barney the dinosaur, but he loved kids and knew exactly how to make them happy. There was just something magical about his enthusiasm that made me want to watch more and more of his episodes. The saddest part of my childhood was when Steve left the show in 2002 and pursued a musical career. Steve was replaced by Donovan Patton, who was the actor for Joe, but it wasn't the same. I stopped watching Blue's Clues after Steve left. It just lost its magic. Joe is nothing like Steve. He was a total goofball, and my mother told me that Donovan Patton was acting too hard. When I turned 16, my family moved to a large three-story house in New York that was previously owned by a nice old lady. A few weeks after moving in, I decided to do some exploring in the attic. I found an old trunk. To my surprise, it was filled with a bunch of old VHS tapes. All of them were Blue's Clues tapes. I knew the old lady's cell phone number, so I decided to call her and ask her about the tapes. She told me that she bought them from a collector a few years back for her little grandson to watch. After I thanked her and hung up, I emptied the trunk and checked the tapes. All of them had episodes I had already watched, except for one. The one tape I found just had a regular sticker, not a factory sticker like the other tapes had. The title of the sticker was Blue's Clues Sorrow. I thought the title was a little strange. I figure it was just a copy of the Steve Goes to College episode, the one where Steve goes off to college and Joe takes his place. Because Steve said goodbye to all his friends that episode, I considered it to be very sorrowful instead. When my parents went on their anniversary trip and left me in charge of the house one night, I figured it was a perfect opportunity to check out the tape. Our TV has a VCR, and I have to admit, I felt a tingle of excitement when I placed the tape in the player. I was about to relive my childhood memories of watching Blue's Clues. I didn't care that I was too old to watch it. I knew for sure that I would enjoy it. At least that's what I thought. The episode started off completely normal. The Blue's Clues book opened up, and Steve looked out the window of his little yellow house. "Hi out there! It's me, Steve! Have you seen Blue? Wait, she's not here. Well, come on in." The front door opened, and Steve was in the living room looking concerned. "I need to tell you something important. Blue is at the pet hospital, and she's having an operation on her heart. I hope she's okay." Steve stopped talking and looked down on the floor. The scene ended. The next scene showed Steve in the pet hospital. He sat in the waiting room without making a sound. He did nothing else but stare at the doors that led to the operating rooms. A surgeon opened the door, but she wasn't an animation. She was a real person. She whispered in Steve's ear, but I could hear everything she said. "Her heart stopped beating. We tried our best, but we couldn't get it to beat again. I'm sorry." The scene ended. The next scene started with a title card saying that a month passed after Blue's funeral. A deep voice spoke. "There are 5 stages in the grieving process: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance." The voice said, "Steve will experience 3 stages all at once: depression, anger, and mental illness." Steve was in his bedroom, lying in his bed. He began to cry, and the color of the episode turned black and white, like a depressing old photograph. He cried so hard his breathing grew shallow. The scene ended. The next scene showed Steve sitting up on his bed. He stopped crying, but his face was red. His teeth were clenched tightly. In his hands, he had a stuffed anteater horse. He screamed, "Blue!" at the top of his lungs. His scream sent chills down my spine. Steve ripped off Horace's head, and black ooze squirted out of the stuffed animal's neck. Steve threw Horace in a fit of rage. When the anteater landed, the ooze completely covered the floor. I fought the urge to vomit. Against my better judgment, I decided to keep watching. Steve's body began to turn a darker and color by the second. After about 5 seconds, Steve turned completely black. He got up out of his bed, walked out of his bedroom, and walked into the living room. I thought he was going to sit in his big red thinking chair, but he didn't. He stood in front of the chair and stared at the screen for a full minute. His eyes lost their pupils and became nothing more than white dots. He started crying again. And white tears streamed down my face. Some sad piano music began to play. The music was so heartbreaking, I shed a few tears myself. A message flashed across the screen. The scene ended. The next scene showed Steve still landing in the living room. He was no longer crying, and his body was a completely normal color. "I can't live out without Blue," he said. "She was my best friend. She gave my life happiness and meaning. Without her, I had nothing to live for." The kids in the background that helped Steve find the clue started to cry whimper. They shouted, "Please don't do it, Steve! We love you! We're your friends too!" "I'm sorry," Steve said. "I'm sorry if I break your hearts for doing this, but I have no choice. Goodbye." He held up a container, and the camera zoomed in on the label, which said potassium cyanide. Steve had a calm look on his face as he swallowed the contents of the container. He instantly collapsed. He foamed in the mouth, and his body twitched and thrashed on the floor like he was being electrocuted.